1 in 200 billion.
Billion. It would take 34,000 billion watts of energy, traveling at 1/40th of a billionth of a second, to change the chemical makeup of a fine linen shroud to leave that image. And he said, we don't have that power on Earth. So a nuclear event happens. He works with one of the most powerful lasers on Earth. They grew a sample. It took 5 years to get a first century model of a shroud, and they would beam their lasers. Eric Jumper and John Jackson. They're at the Air Force Academy. They're physicists, they're professors. They have an VP8 image analyzer. Have you ever heard of a VP8 image analyzer?
I have not.
This guy has a VP8 image analyzer, and he takes a photo of the shroud from 1931, the Henri photo. We cannot explain how a 2,000-year-old burial cloth has 3D information encoded in it. There's Bruno Barberis. He takes all of the information that I just showed you on the cross, the wound patterns, the crown of thorns, and he assigns as a mathematician a probability to it. And Bruno says, Jeremiah, there is a 1 in 200 billion chance it is not the historical Jesus.
1 in 200 billion.
Billion, based on his mathematical probability. And so then I asked him, because, people are dumb and sometimes you have to ask questions to bring your audience along, or they just need to hear it a different way. I said, so Bruno, are you saying that you believe that this was the Jesus of the Bible who was crucified and who this image is? He said, yes. How can I not believe that? The probability compels me to believe. He put his hands up like that. And so the shroud is mentioned in all four Gospels. All four Gospels tell us that Joseph of Arimathea and Nicodemus, two members of the Sanhedrin, ask Pilate for the body of Jesus. Pilate is shocked that he is so quickly dead. We can talk about the brutality of crucifixion later if you want to. And this was an amazing act of courage and faith, because according to Jewish tradition, if the Sanhedrin condemned a criminal to death, it was on the Sanhedrin to bury that criminal. Jesus is not buried honorably, but he's buried properly. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. He's not given an honorable burial. He's given a proper burial. And Joseph of Arimathea, who is a wealthy man, has a linen shroud of fine linen. He didn't go out to Walmart. The Walmart or Target wasn't open on Friday afternoon before Shabbat and Passover, okay? Mm-hmm. He had already purchased this for his own death planning. In fact, he said, better yet, we'll use my family tomb. So a lot of this was just expediency, because according to Jewish burial traditions, which I'm an expert in, you had to bury on the day of death before nightfall. This is Shabbat, and this is Passover. That's how we can date. We can talk about how we can date the crucifixion. We know the exact date of it. So they wrap Jesus's body in this fine linen shroud, which is called sindon in Greek, according to the Greek New Testament. Then they use athonia, that's another Greek word, strips. So they wrap the whole body with fine linen, one continuous sheet, and then they wrap the feet and the hands and probably even the face, so your body, just to protect to dignify the body. They place that 200 feet away in Joseph of Arimathea's family tomb. He's in the tomb for 39 hours, Sean. And then something absolutely miraculous and powerful happens. According to my other friend, Paulo de Lazzaro of Ania Laboratories outside of Rome, the amount of energy it would take to see what I just showed you on the shroud, an image that is superficial. It's only 0.02 microns thin. We could shave it off, Sean, with a knife. That's how superficial the image is. Science has proven it's not paint, it's not pigment, it's not dye. There are no brushstrokes. It doesn't absorb like the blood does. Why? The blood was there before the resurrection. This superficial image is there. Paulo took 5 years. Of course, I met with him, interviewed him. And Paulo says, Jeremiah, it would take 34,000 billion watts of energy, traveling at 1/40th of a billionth of a second, to change the chemical makeup of a fine linen shroud to leave that image. And he said, we don't have that power on Earth. So a nuclear event happens on Sunday, April 5th, AD 33. And that's why I tell people the Shroud of Turin is not a death cloth. It is a resurrection cloth. And better yet, it is an itemized receipt of how much Jesus loves you, Sean.
What do you mean by a nuclear event? What do you mean by that? You mean he just dissipated out of the
That
out
is
of
a
the
great
shroud?
question. What I mean by a nuclear event, I'm saying that in short form because according to the physicists, the amount of energy it would take because there's no pigment, because there's no dye, because there's no paint. Science has proven and published that. Science has to ask, how is this image there? And there was a chemical change to the shroud that if it would have been lasted longer than 1/40th of a billionth of a second, it would have scorched. It would have just burned up. It would have been gone. And so what for the physicists watching, this is called
Did you
peak
just say
power
1/40th of a
of a
second?
billionth of a second.
1/40th of a
Of a
billion.
billionth of a second. So it was a cold power that, I mean, faster than a blink of an eye, 1/40th of a billionth of a second. But it was the amount of energy, 34,000 billion watts. And he has a weapons clearance, Paulo de Lazaro. So he works with one of the most powerful lasers on Earth. And I actually have, they grew fine linen. They grew a sample. It took 5 years to get a first century model of a shroud, and they would beam their lasers, and they were only able to change a postage size stamp size. You just looked at a 14 by 14, 3 by 7 full shroud that has an image on it. We don't have that power on Earth. So here's how I like to put it. If the Big Bang created the Earth, the resurrection of Jesus Christ was the Big Bang that resurrected and redeemed the Earth and you and me.
Wow.
That's what I mean by a nuclear event. It's the best way to explain it. And so I've met with the scientists, you would love this, from Sandia Labs. I've met with the scientists from Los Alamos Laboratories,
No kidding.
the Jet Propulsion Laboratories. These are the greatest scientists on Earth. So in the shroud, one of the really fascinating things that I've not been able to share on other shows is we have to ask, like, what kicked off the scientific exploration of the shroud? Do I have a minute to share this? Is that all right?
Absolutely.
'Cause this is unbelievable. In 1976, two physicists are at Sandia Labs, Eric Jumper and John Jackson. They're at the Air Force Academy. They're physicists, they're professors. They have an VP8 image analyzer. Have you ever heard of a VP8 image analyzer?
I have not.
Okay, a lot of people haven't. This is where the nuclear bombs are being developed and with more precision. The VP8 image analyzer is designed to study what happens to the surface of the Earth after a nuclear explosion. It actually looks at depths of light, field, topography, all of that. Well, this guy has a VP8 image analyzer, and he takes a photo of the shroud from 1931, the Henri photo. I had mentioned, we'll talk about the different photos that have been taken of the shroud. So he doesn't have the actual shroud. He just has a photo of the shroud that he puts through the VP8 image analyzer in 1976. Sean, they are blown away because there is 3D encoding on the shroud. There is a topography, almost a holographic nature to it that shows depths of light, even where there shouldn't be, where the body wasn't even touching the shroud. Then they put a picture of like their grandchildren through it. It's a distorted image. No other image on Earth has 3D encoding that is holographic in nature. And that is what kicked off the scientific study in 1978.
Just a picture?
Just a picture. Incidentally, here's a cool factoid.
So was that picture a miracle, or could you, I mean, the
Any
whole thing
picture
is,
would have
right?
done it.
But
Well, yeah, I mean,
any photo. So we could take one right now and it would do the same thing.
it would do the same thing with a VP8. There's YouTube videos. You can watch Peter Schumacher, a great YouTube videos to watch him doing this, where he can show the depths of light, the topography. And this is where I'm so thankful we have this time, because sometimes I don't have time to get to this, how wild this is, how unique it is, how unbelievable. How I explain it is a natural effect, the shroud is, of the supernatural event of the physical bodily resurrection of Jesus. And science proves that. We're not talking in some kind of theological Christianese right now. I'm quoting physicists. And so that happens in 1976. Which the whole world sees and says, what is this? We cannot explain how a 2,000-year-old burial cloth has 3D information encoded in it that looks like a holograph. This is like something out of Star
Yeah,
Wars.
no kidding.
So 2 years later, in 1978, the STURP team, the Shroud of Turin research project, comprised of 33 scientists, they go to Turin, Italy. They have approval to study the shroud for a little over 100 hours. There's pictures of them literally sleeping on cots. So they take pictures of it. They get pollen spores. They get all of the samples and they look at it and their minds are blown away. Barry Schwartz, who I talked to on the phone, he's now dead. He was a Jew. And he came to believe that the shroud was authentically Jesus.
No kidding.
And it took him 17 years, Sean, after taking the photo in 1978. So he tells me this firsthand. He says, Jeremiah, we're down in the lobby of the hotel having drinks and just laughing, thinking, man, we got a free trip to Italy out of this deal. Give me 15 minutes in the scientific method, and we will prove the shroud is a forgery. After 15 minutes and after one day, no one was laughing. They slept next to it. They said, we can't explain this. But what got Barry, and so Barry gives the TED Talk on the shroud. So I called literally the TED Talk on the shroud was given by Barry Schwartz. That's how I got my replica. I acquired my replica of the shroud from Barry Schwartz. God bless him. But what turned him and convinced him was the blood type. I just showed you that there is blood all over the shroud. Do you want to know what the blood type is?
What's the blood type?
Type AB blood.
What's the
Semitic
significance
blood.
of that?
The significance is if there was ever a priestly line of blood, it would be type AB blood. The fewest amount of people in the world have type AB blood. It's Semitic. It's only 6% of the world's population. It's human blood. And what's even crazier is I have a chapter, but actually a chapter contributed at the end of the book by my friend, scholar Doug Powell. We have the face cloth of Jesus, which I can get into if you want. It's been in Oviedo, Spain. It's called the sudarium. That's another Greek term, face cloth that wrapped the face of Jesus. Guess what the blood type is on the sudarium that's been there since the 7th century?
AB.
AB blood. So if you're a medieval forger, how are you going to know about AB blood? How are you going to be able to, you would have to kill someone, Sean. You would have to torture them. The hematological reports, you're getting me all excited now in this conversation. It gives me chills to this day because it does take your breath away. The hematological reports that have studied the blood, the peer-reviewed journals show that Jesus, who I believe is the man of the shroud, he was experiencing high levels of ferritin, so much so that he was experiencing organ failure before he even got to the cross. His creatinine was off the charts. It is a miracle he even made it to the cross, based on the demonic flogging that he experienced. And so all of this is there. There's a criminologist by the name of Max Fry, and he takes pollen samples from the shroud. And do you know what he finds out? There are 58 pollens on the shroud. 38 of them are from Jerusalem. They only bloom in springtime during Passover. The rest of the 20 pollens follow the provenance of where the shroud has been for the last 2,000 years.
Are you serious?
Yes, according to Max Fry. So 38 of the 58 pollens on the shroud only bloom in springtime. We know Jesus is crucified. It's the best established fact of the ancient world on April 3rd, AD 33. Sean, if we cannot believe that Jesus was crucified under Roman crucifixion based on the sources and evidence, we shouldn't believe that Caesar crossed the Rubicon in 49 BC. Jesus' death and resurrection is the best evidential fact established from late antiquity, and the evidence bears that out.
Wow. Wow. Man, that is... I want to go back to the nuclear.
Yes, please.
So how, I mean, they didn't lift the shroud up. It was a nuclear event in one 40th of a billionth of a second.
Billionth of a second, correct, according to the physicists.
And then he's out.
Right.
Where does he go?
So this is what happens. Early Sunday morning, the women are coming to the tomb. We know from the Jet Propulsion Laboratory, again, this is April 5th. And what's cool about our broadcast this year, Easter Sunday happens to be April 5th. Mm-hmm. So we're talking about the exact day.
Man.
2033. That's 8033.
Probably not a coincidence.
I'm here to blow your mind, by the way. So I'm here to blow everyone's mind
doing
because
it.
the truth of the resurrection should blow our minds. So the women are going there. We know, according to the Jet Propulsion Laboratory, that sunrise on that Easter Sunday would have been a crisp morning in Jerusalem. And the women are hurrying to the tomb. Why? For Jewish burial traditions, Jesus was buried with such haste. He dies at 3, sundown, 6 p.m. Joseph of Arimathea and Nicodemus only have 3 hours to get his body off the cross, to get it buried, and to get it in the tomb. So they did not have time to complete the bodily washing. That's why the women are going to the tomb Sunday morning. Sunrise is at 5:43 in the morning, according to the Jet Propulsion Laboratory, on Sunday morning, April 5th, AD 33. They're going there very, very early. They're shocked because the tomb, which would have weighed 2,750 pounds, the stone cover, I've seen a similar one right down from the King David Hotel, where Mary Omni was buried. It wasn't good to be one of Herod the Great's wife. He loved to kill his wives. One said it was better to be Herod the Great's pig than a member of his family because he was such a paranoid person, would kill his family. So rich tomb covers are like that. They're hard to move. The women of this day would have been 4'11", 90 pounds. Remember, they're worried, Sean, who will move the stone away for us? He's married. Jesus, it's kind of shocking. He's buried in a rich man's tomb, a new tomb. This was Arimathea's tomb, Joseph's. They get there, the tomb cover has been blasted away. And I think that's part of what happened. I think the energy, this nuclear event that brought Jesus's physical body back to life, just blew the tomb door
Dissipated.
wide open. And so Jesus emanates. I want to make this very clear because I had to understand this. I'm thinking to myself, okay, I'm trying to understand. Does he raise from the dead and then, like Lazarus, have to take off his grave clothes? Like what? No, his body literally emanates through the shroud. So the shroud, we've actually created this in AI. The shroud would have just kind of collapsed, and he would have looked down and seen the shroud, walked right out of the tomb, and he starts with all what we call the appearance tradition. This is the eyewitness appearance tradition. So we have empty tomb tradition for Easter, and we have appearance tradition. We have two lines of witness of the physical bodily resurrection of Jesus.
No matter where you're watching the Sean Ryan Show from, if you get anything out of this at all, anything, please like, comment, and subscribe. And most importantly, share this everywhere you possibly can. And if you're feeling extra generous, head to Apple Podcasts and Spotify and leave us a review.